Growing up with video games as my primary hobby, I was able to experience firsthand what this pastime could bring through the generations. The good, the bad, and the ugly. But when those ugly times occurred, I knew that there was a new game on that shelf itching for me to play for hours. A new genre, a new game studio, a new world for me to explore. It is strange for me to see a lot of these videos on YouTube and discussions on other platforms with creators stating that gaming is dying or gaming is dead. I mean, their reasons, well, I can attest could be viewed as issues within the industry today, aren't really enough to say that gaming is dying. With a very special guest, we will dive in to why gaming is not dead. What is good, y'all? It is TheYoungKingKen, and today we are going to discuss why gaming isn't dead. And when considering this topic, I instantly thought of bringing my guest here today. We have Chuck Grizzly of the BattleBudz podcast. If you'd like to introduce yourself and what you do.
Yeah, of course, man. I am Chuck Grizzly. I'm with the BattleBudz podcast. It's a podcast actually seeking out the true stories of why gamers are gamers and how that fuels us in what we do today.
Of course, I was featured as the inaugural guest on the BattleBudz podcast, where we dived into my gaming history and how gaming has shaped me to be the person I am today. So please give that a listen on Spotify. And without further ado, let's get into this. To start, while going through why people are so unhappy with this current state of gaming, 3 reasons pop up. The first being that AAA companies and their greedy practices within the industry hinders the gaming experience with some of our favorite IPs. Microtransactions to already premium games, buggy or unfinished state of games at launch, and the lack of innovation and creativity are issues that need to be addressed. But to say that it is causing gaming to die is simply not true. To highlight each of these points, microtransactions, while these are not good as they can distract over the overall experience of the game with loot boxes, pay to win mechanics, and other in-game advantages, microtransactions have been integral in free-to-play games like Fortnite, Apex Legends, Rocket League, and many more. These have brought audiences outside of gaming into the industry with creative collabs with icons from popular movies, music, and other media like Travis Scott in Fortnite, the operator skins from the movie Die Hard and Call of Duty, and much more.
Now, granted, those IPs of Call of Duty, Die Hard, and the occasional Snoop Dogg, while they are fun to see in games, when it comes to microtransactions, if I just paid you $70, don't try to nickel and dime me for more. Like, what happened to the time of MW2 where when I got the game, yeah, I may have to buy a DLC pack, but that was my choice. I didn't have to do it if I wanted to be good or be on the top leaderboards of the game.
I totally agree with that sentiment. And, you know, just going off of that, with the lack of innovation and creativity that we're seeing nowadays, I mean, we can discuss the ever-growing amount of remakes, remasters, and sequels. I agree that nostalgia is one hell of a drug, but I feel that remakes shows the development team why the originals are so great. We take Crash Bandicoot's Insane Trilogy, for example. They took what was so great about the original trilogy, created the remake, and implemented all of this into Crash 4, which is an amazing game. Plus, there are a variety of original games, especially from the indie scene, in which are getting Game of the Year nominations like Stray.
See, I've always saw Stray, never played it, but I agree with you completely. One indie game that I really love is Celeste. I never was really a platformer before Celeste. I played Celeste, started it up, played through the first couple levels, finished it that night. I could not put it down. And the fact that indie scenes are being able to give me that type of feeling and experience, it kind of reminds me of the days where I was excited to get a new Tekken game or excited to see what E3 was going to drop that year.
Yeah, and it's especially games like Celeste. I mean, for me, like picking up Balatro is it's just mind-blowing like how many hours like I put into that game versus some of the AAA games that are out. So you know, as long as these games have the innovation, like they'll be fine. But you know, there's a wide variety. And of course, going on the theme on the issues of the gaming industry, I mean, there's again so much in terms of variety that wouldn't really cause a rift to the actual people playing these games, which really goes into my second point as to why people think gaming is dead, which is the closed-mindedness. You know, these people should not be saying anything if you stick to the same 3 developers. You gotta hate that people are talking that gaming is trash when they mainly play Call of Duty, insert sports game here, and Minecraft. No shade to any of these communities, but until you keep an open mind and play a new game or try out some demos here and there, you can't be generalizing an entire industry. Yeah, I get bored too when you've only been playing the same game for over a decade.
Oh yeah, the guys, man, I've been playing Madden since Tecmo Bowl. It's like that wasn't even the same game, bro. Like, what are we talking about here? And I even can attest to my own gaming journey and my own gaming things that I've gamed on. I was closed-minded at one point, and the only thing I cared about was the next year's Call of Duty, the next year's this. And then I was like, man, well, it's taking forever for the new Activision Call of Duty to come out. Until I actually played The Last of Us Part 1 on the hardest difficulty. And I never picked up Call of Duty like the rest of the year until like I think Black Ops 3 came out. Yeah, so for a fact that a game genre like the single player games to take me out of that realm and to open my eyes to like, oh, I like this. This is nice. I don't have to worry about getting nude or fragged from some little 2-year-old screaming in my ear, but it now allows me to experience a new life, a new way.
Yeah. And I mean, sometimes I feel nostalgic, you know, whenever I play like Call of Duty over and over and over again. But I mean, it's there's thousands upon thousands of games. Like I was telling Chuck at one point that I picked up a demo of Danganronpa, and you know, I really was in love with the art style and the story, and I was like, okay, all right, let me get the full game. And then after playing that, like, okay, what are some games that are like this? It's almost like getting into like an anime of some sort, because like you're into it, and then after the 12th episode, it's like, oh darn, I need to see what kind of shows are like this. So that's what got me into Persona 5. And if you've been knowing me on the channel for a while, I mean, that's probably one of my favorite games of all time. So I mean, there's constantly new games coming out. So like if you finding yourself playing like the same few games, like open your mind and you know, play something new. The third reason, gaming isn't the new flavor in the shop anymore. Trust me, your love for a hobby is like a relationship. After a period of time, the honeymoon phase ends and the true test of whether or not it's meant to be begins. In the case of gaming, a lot of us, specifically those 80s and 90s babies, would agree that this honeymoon phase ended during the last generation with the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Wii U, as that was a generation where nothing majorly new was brought to the table aside from graphical improvements. This realization pushed developers to showcase that you don't have to have the best graphics to make a good game. This is why the Nintendo Switch, a console in the current generation, is on pace to be the #1 best-selling console of all time. It has nothing but great exclusives, a great indie lineup, and the ability to play the catalog of our favorite games on the go, which only attracts, you know, not only your typical gamer, but communities of all ages and backgrounds.
Yeah, and even the on-the-go aspect, let's take now what they're doing with Game Pass with Microsoft, or now what they're doing with PlayStation Plus. While it is kind of expensive sometimes, it still also hits that generation of me who misses Tekken 2 and can't get a nice working copy. Well, heck, I can play that on my PS5 now. And having it not be the newest thing that I can experience, but something I can look back on my history and be like, man, it was really nice to experience that. It gives me that subtle reminder that we only have gaming for a little bit. Whether you pick it up or put it down, whenever you do, you should cherish each moment, because sometimes just the ability to get those old moments back won't be able to be available to you.
Yeah, and of course, we're aging, and most of us are adults with real life responsibilities. But to say that gaming is dead because games don't hit like they used to is crazy. Like, there are over tens of thousands of video games. I mean, I probably said this like 3 times already, but as a child, only being able to play that one or two of the same game per year that I got from like my birthdays and each and every single Christmas. Adult me is having a field day as there's so much variety. My wallet, however, is not having a good time. I grew up playing the platformers, the kart racers, and the fighting games, but as an adult, being open-minded, I have experience playing those JRPGs like I mentioned Persona 5 and the Dragon Quest, the Soulsborns like Elden Ring, and the roguelikes like Slay the Spire, Balatro, and Curse to Golf.
And see, me, I never had the yearly Christmas console release. My mom never really got them. The first game console I ever had was the SNES, and then my uncle pawned it. And then the next game console I ever had was the PS3. But between the PS3 and the SNES, I had to do the old shuffle, like, hey, you got a game over your house? Can I sleep over? Playing the games all night, or playing as much as I could over friends' houses. And to experience the games that way, for me in my adult era of gaming, it's like, man, I really wish I can go back and play that game. And when it was working fully, like when you didn't have a question if your PS1 disc was going to actually go to the second loading screen or not. And like you said, my wallet's struggling too. It'd be screaming, help me, no, don't do it.
I mean, in conclusion, like, the reason why we think gaming isn't dead is that there's still passion and soul into the communities coming together for years. Game developers branching out to continue making creative and innovative games through their indie studios. Us being able to show the younger generation who weren't around playing like the classics and seeing how a game's series get their roots from is an amazing experience.
That is absolutely a fact. I love From Software, and a lot of From Software games. I actually have to never played Dark Souls on the Xbox 360 when it first came out. I actually played it later, and I think it made me have a newfound respect for the development studio after playing it and realizing, man, you did that in the 360 era. I wish I would have been there when it first was there, but I'm happy I'm here now.
Yeah, I mean, I could like go down the list of like some of those like experiences with like games from a new studio. Like, I mean, especially during the PS3 era. I mean, we were talking about not so long about some of the different games during that era. Infamous, the Batman Arkham series and whatnot. So, I mean, yes, like gaming isn't dead, and there are some clear issues with the industry, but it's when you look past that, you're going to see some gems. You're going to see some gems. And honestly, if you take anything from this video, we challenge you to explore different genres you haven't tried before, research new releases beyond the mainstream titles, take advantage of the platforms and services such as the Epic Game Store, Xbox Game Pass, or PS Plus, or even Nintendo Switch Online. Challenge yourselves with different play styles and embrace retro games, and especially those you haven't played.
Exactly. All those things is a challenge that even I take up every day when I turn on my console. Is there something new I haven't done today? Is there an article I haven't read on my favorite developer? Oh, one guy that was a design lead for this game is working on this game. Did I like his work in that other game? Actually putting in the sweat work and equity of being a gamer.
Yeah. So, I mean, of course, I want to hear from you. What do you think about the current state of gaming? What games are you playing? What games would you recommend? Comment below. And thank you for watching. And thank you, Chuck Grizzly, for sharing your insights on this. How can the viewers reach you?
Heck yeah, man. It's been a pleasure. You guys can reach me here on YouTube. That will be the BattleBudz podcast. And you can also join us on our Discord at the BattleBudz podcast. And you can find our episodes uploaded on Spotify and other streaming services coming soon.
Yeah, and all of this will be in the description. So if you like this, please hit that like, hit that sub, and that notification bell to get updates. And until the next video, I would like for y'all to keep our kingdom seasoned, y'all.